All right, so when I was moving to Eastern North Carolina, one of the biggest things that I researched and paid attention to was the cost of living. Obviously, you want to make sure that the income that you're making in the state that you're residing in now goes just as far in the new area that you're moving to. The national median sold price is about $417,000. Here in Wilmington, the median sold price is $422,000 as of June of 2023. So as you can see, the cost of housing in Wilmington is a bit higher than that of the national median sold price. And so that's just one of the things that we're going to discuss here in this video. It's going to be a down and dirty talk about the cost of living in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I'm even going to compare it to a similar city that one of my buddies is a realtor in. And we're going to discuss that as well. But with that being said, guys, my name's Avery. I'm with the Living in Jacksonville team. And if you're looking to make a move anywhere to Eastern North Carolina, the Living in Jacksonville team would love to have a conversation with you. So that phone number and email address popping up on your screen, I am the one that responds to all the calls, texts, and emails. And I would love to have a conversation with you, and the team would love to help you make that smooth move. And without further ado, guys, cost of living in a particular area is one of the most important factors that you need to consider before moving. You know, how much house are you going to afford, right? How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what's the square footage? Also, what does rent look like if you're looking to rent? And then what about your daily expenses like groceries, gas, right? Mechanics, right? Other services like that. And then, you know, is there parking fees, things like that? We're going to discuss all of it today in this video, jumping into it right now. So without further ado, right now we're talking about some of the categories of the cost of living in Wilmington and sort of where they rank in comparison to the national average. And so the first category is energy. Wilmington, North Carolina is 7% lower cost than the national average. So things like your utilities is going to be cheaper. Food is about 0.6% higher than the national average. I don't know why that is. I think it has something to do with seafood, and seafood is always much more expensive. And like Hampstead, Wilmington area is a pretty significant source of the seafood here in the state of North Carolina. So I think, it's pure speculation, that might be the reason why food costs are higher than the national average. Healthcare is down 18% lower than the national average. That's a good thing. That means you're going to save money on all of your medical bills. Housing, 4.3% lower than the national average. I'm not talking about the cost of housing in terms of like purchase price. We're talking about your principal interest. We're talking about the taxes, right? What it costs you to live in a particular area with regard to your housing. And that does include apartments and rentals as well. And transportation is 10.1% lower than the national average. So as you can see, guys, Wilmington, North Carolina is definitely lower for the most part than the national average. Not to say that it's super, super cheap by any means, but it's affordable, right? I came from one of the more affordable areas in upstate New York, where you didn't really have to pinch pennies too much. Right now, that area is climbing, but just like the rest of the United States is climbing with inflation. But Wilmington wasn't much. It's not much of a shock for me when I moved here as far as the cost of living goes. So, you know, unless you're coming from a extremely cheap area in the United States, you're not going to be spending much more money here in Wilmington. If you're coming from a major metro city, you're definitely going to be saving a ton of money, especially with regard to taxes. Now, diving into some specific costs for some of your living expenses, I'm going to go down the list and share with you some of the numbers that I've gathered over time and some of my observations. These are not, meant in any way, shape, or form to be 100% accurate, but a general guideline of what I've seen based on experience, right? So jumping into it, electricity bill here in New Hanover County, roughly about $120 to $200 a month. The majority of everything in your house is going to be powered by electric. So, the gas furnaces and stuff that you might see up north, aren't really a thing here. It's going to be the electric cost. And so if you have a home office, or you just are always home and, maybe your kids get babysat at the house, or whatever that case is, you're probably going to be leaning closer to that 180 mark or that 200 mark because you're using electricity all the time. Whereas if you're out of the house all the time and you only use your home really to sleep, you're going to be looking at the lower end of that spectrum. Moving on to water. Water is a big buzzword in this area, specifically because of some of the contaminants and Gen X, that kind of thing. In the area. But as far as the costs go, we're looking roughly about $75 a month for water. And, with regard to the contaminants, that's one of the big questions that people ask about in Wilmington is, for over 30 years, there's chemical manufacturers in the area that essentially have had spills into the Cape Fear River, which is one of the leading sources of drinking water for the area. Obviously, there's a filtration process and that kind of thing that, the municipality takes to clean out the water and make it safer to drink and get, to acceptable levels, that kind of thing. But there is still an issue, right? People complain. There are water boil advisories that come out relatively frequently. And so, you can't drink your municipal water during those times because you have to boil it, kill some of the contaminants, and then drink it. So there are other things that you can do to prevent that. The first thing you can do is get like a Culligan home system, right? Which, they'll deliver the 5-gallon jugs to a system, and you drink out of that jug system. And, that's not my preferred method just because it's a lot of hassle to get the jugs, put it on the system, and, go about your day that way. What I would rather do is spend the $1,000 to $2,000 for a RO system. You can do a whole house RO system, reverse osmosis, or you can do just a drinking water RO system, which is a filtration system underneath your sink that gives you perfectly good drinking water. You can also use it for your refrigerator if you're, more inclined to drink out of your refrigerator. But that filters the water that you specifically drink. If you're not too worried about the water as far as like brushing your teeth or showering or that kind of thing, that's going to be a perfect solution for you because you don't have a recurring bill monthly with that. You basically will get it maintained once every year or 2 years, whatever it looks like for your house. But it's like $1,000 to $2,000 for the under the sink system, and then probably a little bit more for the whole house RO, and that is a little bit more maintenance required for that whole house system. But once again, to each their own. I prefer the whole house system, and when I lived in upstate New York, I did have a under the sink drinking water RO system, so that's what I prefer. But a lot of people use the Culligan water deliveries where they get the 5-gallon jugs and drink out of that. Water and sewer are separate in the area. So sewer is about $82 a month. If you're not on septic, if you're in public sewer, then it's about $80-something a month, $80 to $100 a month for sewer. Internet is roughly about $75 for the basic, the standard package, whether it's Spectrum or any other local provider that you can find in the area. AT&T has some plans as well, but they don't service all locations here in Wilmington. So estimate about $75 a month. I know that's what I pay for my Spectrum service, and honestly, I don't have any issues with Wi-Fi. So with that, if you're looking for like a cable package or TV or something of that nature, you can always do like the Hulu thing or the Disney Plus with ESPN Plus. But I don't subscribe to the cable TV. So honestly, I don't know what that price is going to look like, and it's different, it seems like, for every household. Trash is going to be about $140 or so per quarter. It's billed quarterly. And if you're sort of on the outskirts and whatnot in certain subdivisions and stuff, you can certainly get into like a waste management system or some of the smaller trash collectors, and you'll be looking around $30 to $40 per month for the trash collection. It is not mandatory in Wilmington or in the state of North Carolina to have a recycling service. As much as it's nice to recycle, it is not mandatory. So that's going to be up in the air whether or not you want to invest in a recycling service. And it's going to be a little bit more expensive as well. And then moving into the home insurance sector, this is where really the bulk of the expenses come into play with regard to the housing costs. Like I was referring to earlier, not necessarily the purchase price that is more expensive, but it's like the insurance and the taxes that really elevate that price for the cost of living. And so home insurance, including wind and hail, is anywhere from like $900 to $1,000 a year. And obviously, depending on the size of the house, how much you insure within your house, personal belongings, that kind of thing. And then it's always a good idea. It's not always required. If you're not in a flood zone, it's not required. But I would always recommend it because, most of Wilmington is pretty close to sea level, so flooding can happen. But I do recommend getting flood insurance. And so the average, if you're not in a flood zone, is going to be anywhere from $300 to $500. And in my mind, that's 1,000% worth it. So you can lock up your doors, walk away from the house if there's a hurricane, and not have to worry about it because your insurance policy covers it for a relatively minute cost. Now, if you are in a flood zone, your flood insurance is going to range, and you're going to be over that $500 number. The closer you are to the beach, the higher that number is going to be. The further away from the beach, the lower that number is going to be. So it really depends on where you live and how much house you have and the assets within your home. And then as far as taxes go, taxes aren't too bad. We're looking at, for New Hanover County, we're looking at about $1 per $100 of value in your home. So a lot cheaper than a lot of places, especially up north. I mean, if you're, in New York, right, or New Jersey, or some of the bigger metropolitan cities, you're going to be saving a boatload of money with regard to your taxes. So once again, New Hanover County is about $1 per $100 in value. And if you are in Pender County, you're going to be looking at about roughly 64 cents per $100 of value. So not too bad in Pender County as well. You can certainly pick and choose where you're going to live and, choose your taxes that way. But once again, the property taxes are a big reason that people move to Eastern North Carolina as a whole, and specifically Wilmington. Now, comparing it to another similar sized city, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I do have a buddy in Chattanooga that sells real estate. He actually does have a YouTube channel as well. And, taking some of the information from him, if you were to live in Chattanooga, Tennessee and move to Wilmington, North Carolina, you would have a little over $10,000 less disposable income. If your salary in Chattanooga was $100,000 and you move to Wilmington, you would need to make $112,717 to maintain the same lifestyle as you did in Chattanooga. Chattanooga, Tennessee is a similar size market, similar size city, similar size population, and basically every category that we spoke of before with energy, housing, food, healthcare, so on and so forth, is significantly cheaper in Chattanooga than Wilmington. So if you're moving from an area like Chattanooga where it's cheaper, then yeah, you're gonna have to make more money here in Wilmington, about $12,000 to $15,000 more every single year. So while we're not too much higher than the national average, we are more expensive than some similar sized cities. So we're about comparable to Raleigh as well. However, we are cheaper than Raleigh. So if you're considering like a city like Raleigh, North Carolina, or Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina is going to be the cheaper place to be. And it's better in my opinion because it's coastal. All right, and then as far as real estate goes, the median sold price as of June of 2023 is $422,500, and that is a relatively low number for being this close to the water, right, and this close to all of the amenities that Wilmington provides, and especially with cheap taxes. Your cost of living just plummets compared to some of, states up north or some of the bigger metros. But, as with the real estate pricing, there you can be close to the water and have a $13 million property, or you can be further inland and have a $2 million property, or you can have a $200,000 property. So there's something here for everyone as far as real estate and pricing goes. I was on the phone with a gentleman the other day, and he's like, hey, what about Ogden, right? Can I get something decent for about $700,000 in Ogden? The answer is absolutely yes. There's current listings right now on the market that are anywhere from about $550,000 to $800,000 that are, 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, or 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and just beautiful, beautiful real estate. And then obviously you can get cheaper and more expensive in those same areas. So the answer to your question, if you're, asking, hey, can I get a house in Wilmington for X price? The answer is going to be yes. There's something out there for everybody. It's just the median sold price is $422,000, which puts it right there with the United States. Like the United States average is $417,000. So we're not that far over in the grand scheme of things, especially being this close to the water, right? With the Cape Fear River, with the Intercoastal Waterway, with the beaches, Wrightsville Beach, and then, going as far out to Oak Island or Topsail Island, and a short drive away from some other big beaches like Myrtle Beach, or the other side like Emerald Isle. You really just can't beat it. And then it being a college town, so many breweries, so many amenities and restaurants, that kind of thing. In my opinion, you just can't beat it. So with all of that said, guys, that was the cost of living in Wilmington. That was the down and dirty. I can't go too far into the weeds with this stuff because it varies from house to house, family to family, person to person. But that is what I'm seeing on the day-to-day as far as averages go. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop me a comment or shoot me a message or a text message to the phone number and email address provided. Being in Jacksonville team would love to help you make a smooth move. And until the next video, guys, talk to you later. See ya.